साधु सर्वजा सुनियाति साधु सर्वजा Nakanda Thakur ki translation.
I have heard from the mouths of the saintly devotees that everyone says that by the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami, one may approach the lotus feet of divine couple. O Sanatan Prabhu, O personal associate of Lord Chaitanya, please fulfill my desire. Please fulfill my desire that saintly Rupa Goswami may be merciful to me and that I will be able to take shelter of his lotus feet. When will my master Lokanath Goswami place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami? When by your mercy will your faithful follower Narottam Das become eligible to receive direct instruction from the Gopi friend of the divine couple?
Okay, just which chapter here? Om Ajnanatimirandasya Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
which verse number? Two nine six. I think Siddhade and Sadhana they done 296 I think we can start. No point of participating in the discriminating practices Surangas that you mentioned by the it's not done. Okay, up to Siddhade and Sadhana. Okay, we're discussing the methods of practicing Raganuga Bhakti. There was given that I discussed that NOI verse number 8 is actually Raganuga Sadhana itself. It is the 24 hours we could be submerged in the chanting of the holy name, remembering the pastimes form of Krishna staying at Radhakund in Vrindavan. If one cannot, then one can stay at anywhere, but in the mind he should stay at Radhakund, Vrindavan somewhere. And then sadhana there has to be done. Sadhana there he has to perform the sadhana, as Prabhupada I think described it as the neophyte devotees also does. And he has to chant, he has to follow all those rules and regulations. And in the Siddhade, one meditates on the Swarupa and he performs the service in the Ashtakalya Leela to Krishna. Mansi Seva that is called. Okay, I think 296 if we will start. 296. Yeah, 296 translation.
Discriminating practitioners should accept the angas that were mentioned in Vedic Bhakti, such as hearing and loud chanting, as the angas of Raganuga Bhakti as well. Srila Rupa Goswami says that learned acharyas recommend that we follow the regulative principles even after the development of spontaneous love for Krishna. According to the regulative principles, there are 9 departmental activities. As described above, one should specifically engage himself in the type of devotional service for which he has a natural aptitude. For example, one person may have particular interest in hearing, another may have particular interest in chanting, another may have particular interest in serving in temple. So this or any of the other 6 different types of devotional service, remembering, serving, praying, engaging in some particular service, being in a friendly relationship, or offering everything in one's possession, should be executed in full earnestness. In this way, everyone should act according to his particular taste.
So Prabhupada himself has clarified how does Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The verse itself will gradually clarifying all those things. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells that, for example, if somebody is having a bhava of he wants to serve like gopis, then he should not meditate. There are few angas that in deity worship, he should not meditate in the form of the Krishna and the Dwaraka and the Rukmini. Because in the scripture it is told in Agam Shastra how one should meditate or how one should worship. So he should not do like that. Then he will get, it will be clarified. In the Dwaraka, he will get his seva, eternal seva. So similarly, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also clarified, hearing, chanting, these are mandatory in all of the seva. Means whatever in hearing, chanting, because from hearing only the taste arises. So I'll read from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur first, and following the Guru's instructions also. First 3 is mandatory in the Vedic Bhakti also, in the Raganuga also, that we read there. Along with the hearing and chanting items, hearing and chanting will always be there, such as surrendering to the lotus feet of Guru should be understood as favorable. It will be clarified further that these things are favorable in all types of bhav or all types of whatever one is performing in Raganuga also. Hearing, chanting, and surrendering to the lotus feet of Guru. Without those favorable items, how can one accomplish following after the eternal inhabitants of Braja? After considering with intelligence, one should select activities. Now one should use one's intelligence, like verse tells that discriminating practitioner. Means he should discriminate. Now he should discriminate that these things are mandatory: hearing, chanting, and surrendering into the lotus feet of Guru. And then one should discriminate intelligently. One should select activities conducive to one's own sentiments for Krishna, and not those activities which are contrary to one's sentiment. Though prescribed in the scriptures, activities of deity worship as worshipping Rukmini, meditation of Dwaraka, performing Mudra and Nyasa. We discussed what is Mudra and Nyasa, deity worship, or identifying oneself with the Lord. And with identifying oneself with the Lord means as a servant of the Lord, worshipping. Okay, no, it means this could be rejected. Identifying oneself with the Lord means it is like impersonal liberation, and so worshipping oneself should be rejected. The scriptures also say that the path of the bhakti, there is no fault in omitting some of the procedures. So one should discriminately, but these 3, hearing, chanting, and surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Guru, is mandatory in all the sadhana. Okay. 297.
Here it is said also that performing mudras and nyasas are not mandatory for Raganuga.
Yeah.
Not necessary for Raganuga.
Yeah, of course. It's not necessary. That is what I miss. It is not necessary because if one is doing in that, it will be considered Vaidhi Bhakti. Then he will not get. Raganuga is performed only for the Braj Krishna, not for the Dwarka Krishna. Doing with the Mudraj and Nyasa, one does deity worship. Okay. So if with the following these rules, worshipping Rukmini and Krishna, then he will attain Dwarka, and that will not be called Raganuga Bhakti, because Raganuga Bhakti is done only for the Braj Krishna.
Yesterday we were discussing the verse Seva Sadhaka Rupina, Sitha Rupina Chatrahi. So how should behave Raganuga Sadhaka?
It will come. Raganuga Sadhaka also worships deity. When it will come, there will come that one of the carpenter was worshipping Krishna as one Bala form, in Bala Rupa. He was, and then one king was also established, did Rajabhishek of Krishna's deity and worshipping him in that way. Even we will see also later that those who worship Radha and Krishna in deity, means as deity, he considered Radha and Krishna, not Lakshmi Narayan or Dwarka Krishna. Worships Radha Krishna, but with little awe and reverence. Then he goes Vaikuntha, but not this Vaikuntha that Vishnu resides. There is a Vaikuntha in Gokula also. He attends that Vaikuntha, where I will clarify that Lord Krishna, it comes in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto also, when it will come in chapter 28, when Nanda Maharaj was kidnapped by Varuna's assistant, and then when Krishna rescued him, and he took all the residents of the Braja to Vaikuntha. Remember? No. Okay, rescued him, and then because Nanda Maharaj was thinking, then he was thinking like this: oh, even demigods followed Krishna because he is such a wonderful child that even demigods fell prey for him. He was not thinking that Krishna is God or something like that. Fall prey in for his beauty and for his attractiveness, for his sweet speaking. Then Krishna thought just to take all those Brajvasi there. So in the Bhagavatam it comes that in the verse it's Swalokam. It's not written that Swalokam Vaikuntham it is written. So, and there Nanda Maharaj, all the Gopas, they all saw that the Shrutis are glorifying Radha and Krishna, not Lakshmi Narayan. Nanda Maharaj also saw. Krishna is there. Krishna is being glorified. So they felt all very happy, blissful, and then again came back. So there is Vaikuntha also in Gokula. So those, if with Midraj and Nyasa, with all those Vaidhi Bhakti Sanghas, if they do deity worship, then they will attain different places. It will come in verses only. If worships Rukmini and Krishna, because if one worships Rukmini and Krishna, then he has to follow the procedures of the scriptures, as has been mentioned, like Mudra and Nyas and all those things. Okay, then he will attain Rukmini and Krishna.
When one starts to perform Raganuga sadhana, externally he should continue doing his duties in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, but it seems from this verse that some activities he should reject.
Yeah, of course, according to his moods.
Something he should reject.
Yeah, Prabhupada himself has clarified, and then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur also telling that if some of the limbs are rejected, then it's not offense or anything, because in Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna himself has told Uddhava that, my dear devote Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of devotional service unto me is transcendental and free from material motivation. Certainly a devotee never suffers even the slightest loss. No, not this. Where we're reading. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur also clarifies, or Jiva Goswami will come later, that some of the limbs that are not favorable for that mode should be rejected. And the limbs, these three are mandatory: hearing, chanting, and surrendering unto Guru. But some of the limbs that are not favorable should be rejected. For example, if somebody is worshipping in his Sambandh Rupa in Vatsalya form, then in Vatsalya he does not think that, he thinks that I am protector of Krishna. He should not follow that path, that Sarana Prapatti, in which one thinks that Krishna is protector of mine. So he should reject that. Otherwise it will be contradictory mood. So one should reject some of the limbs, not all the limbs. Only those limbs they should follow in the Vaidhi Bhakti, which is favorable. So in some of the things, deity worship also becomes favorable. In some of the sentience, means bhava, deity worship also becomes favorable. But whenever if one is worshipping deities in Raganuga, then he should not worship in the Rukmini and Dwarka Krishna form. These are, however, very high level topics. So we should use, sometimes it might be becoming a little bit problematic. Yeah. Oh, yeah, only for Braj Krishna. Of course, Premi Bhaktas are Narad Muni is Premi Bhakta. Whoever has got Prema is Premi Bhakta. No, they know why Raganuga Bhakti. This is only the difference in Bhav. When one comes in Bhav also, they do not completely follow the scriptures. That will be today we'll be discussing the Bhav Bhakti. Because they just perform spontaneously in Bhav Bhakti also. But they still know that Krishna is the God. Narad Muni always know that Krishna is the God. He has that awe and reverence. Pandavas always knew that Krishna is the God. However, Arjuna behaved as a friend with him, but always he knew that Krishna is God. But in Braj, for the Braj Krishna, Vrindavan says, do not, even sometimes they have all the knowledge, but Yogamaya covers that. They act in that most part of the, for example, in Gopi Geet, we sometimes sing also that in the Gopi describes that he is God, he is means like, but for his pastimes, Yogamaya covers in such a way that they do not behave with Krishna as God. They just think like this, he's my lover. Yashoda and Nanda thinks that he is my child. Like Nanda Maharaj did not think that, oh, Krishna is God, that's why Varuna left me. Because he's such a wonderful child that he also got attracted by him. And because of that, he left me. No, everything will be discussed. Prema, from Vaidhi also Bhava Bhakti, and Bhav when matures becomes Prema. From Raganuga also becomes Bhava and Prema. The only component is that in Vaidhi Bhakti, one thinks that Krishna is God, means awe and reverence. And in that, Raganuga, one does not think, one considers a relation with him, and accordingly he performs devotional service. In simple words, Bhava Bhakti comes in simple words. In Vaidhi Bhakti, devotee considers that Krishna is God. Okay. And so Bhava Bhakti, both Bhava Bhakti comes for the Vaidhi Bhaktas also Bhava and Prema. For Raganuga Bhaktas also Bhava and Prema. Raganuga Bhaktas attain those things, that type of Bhava which is conducive for the Braj Krishna. Vaidhi Bhakti for Dwarka, Mathura, Ayodhya, all the Vaikunthas. All the Vaikuntha is Gokula also. Of course, we should not. Okay, I'll probably explain that. We should not think that Vaidhi Bhakti is some very inferior. No. Firstly, everyone has to perform Vaidhi Bhakti according to Prabhupada's summary study only. Unless, even if somebody did not get the mercy, because we discussed yesterday only that only by the mercy of Krishna or his pure devotees, one can attain the greed to perform Raganuga Bhakti. Okay? And up to Anartha Nivriti, even if somebody just wants to perform just without getting mercy also. Prabhupada clarifies that. Up to Anartha Nivriti stage, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivriti. Up to Anartha Nivriti stage, everyone has to perform only Vaidhi Bhakti, nothing else, only Vaidhi Bhakti. Prabhupada clarified yesterday. Yeah, 297.
Raganuga is described as follows: that Raganuga sadhana bhakti, which is filled with longing for the Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti of this Siddha Bhaktas, is called Kamanuga Bhakti.
So I think it is clear, those who are following in the wake of or in the footsteps of Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhaktas, so they will be called Kamanuga Bhaktas and their Bhakti will be called Kamanuga Bhakti. Is Prabhupada.
Conjugal love, devotional service following in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan or the queens of Dwarka is called devotional service in conjugal love.
Prabhupada has here written that devotional service is conjugal love. Both are called conjugal love, of course, but the queens at Dwarka will be called in the Vaidhi Bhakti, okay? And this will be called in the Vrindavan is we call the Raganuga Bhakti. Okay. Both are called conjugal love. One is Swakiya, one is Parkiya Bhav. We will be discussing when third ocean will come. That time we will be discussing a lot. Which type of is favorable to what, which is friend of. There are different aspects. Yeah. 298, 299.
There are two types of Kamanuga Bhakti, Sambhogechamayi and Tat Bhavechatmika. Sambhogechamayi Bhakti means an amorous enjoyment with Krishna. Tat Bhavechatmika Bhakti is characterized by desiring the sweet mood of love of Krishna. Kamarupa Siddha devotees. This devotional service in conjugal love can be divided into two categories. One is indirect conjugal love and the other direct. In both of this category, one has to follow the particular gopi who is engaged in such a service in Goloka Vrindavan. To be directly attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in conjugal love is technically called Keli. This Keli performance means to directly join with the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
We already discussed yesterday what is Keli in the Astanga Maithuna. Okay.
There are other devotees who do not wish direct contact with the Supreme Person, but who relish the conjugal loving affair of the Lord with the gopis. Such a devotee enjoy simply by hearing of the activities of the Lord with the gopis.
Okay. So two types of Kamanuga Bhaktis are also there. And in simple words, just I'll try to clarify, explain. Just to write the spelling because it is very big word. I am using this one. So two types of Kamanuga. Kamanuga I'll not describe because I think we all understand Kamanuga. That those following on the footsteps of Kamarupa Siddha Bhaktas. Okay, means Kamarupa Ragatmika Bhaktas, that is called Kamanuga. One is called Sambhogechamayi. Sambhog. And another is called Tad Bhavichha. So what is that difference? In one, the person or the devotee wants to satisfy Krishna with direct relationship. Okay. He wants to satisfy Krishna. He doesn't want to enjoy. He wants to satisfy Krishna. That Krishna should enjoy that devotee directly without any means. For example, Chandravali. So they want Chandravali is of course directly Ragatmika Bhakta, means Ragatmika Bhakti. It is not that easy, but I'm just giving an example to understand. They want directly that they want to satisfy Krishna, make Krishna happy directly without means like. But in this, the devotee wants the same type of prema, intensity. But for example, the Manjiris, they serve Radha and Krishna, specifically Radha Rani they serve. Okay, they bring different flowers, they massage Radha Rani's food, they do all kinds of things. But they have the same intensity of the prema. So they enjoy the same intensity of bhava also. But they do not want to satisfy Krishna directly. So they are called tad. Tad means there. Tad means like the Kamatmika Bhaktas, whoever. So they are followers, they are anugamis. So in that manner, this is Tanta Bhavechatma Mai Bhakti. Okay. And this Kamanuga Bhakti is considered better than this. Clear? Okay. Kuch pucha hai? Okay. So this is best in that. This is also great, but this type of bhakti, Kamanuga Bhakti, is considered best. What? So they are Kamatmika Bhaktas. We are talking about the Kamanuga. We are talking about the Kamanuga. They are the Kamatmika. Those Bhaktas who follows Kamatmika Bhakta in this manner, they do not want to satisfy Krishna directly. There are some Bhakta who want to satisfy Krishna directly. Okay. So they, even though in the Astasakhi, Radha and Krishna is the first priority. Lalita Vishakha most of the time assist Radha and Krishna. Sometimes because Krishna wants to enjoy Vishakha or Lalita, that's why he arranges in that way. But Vishakha or Lalita assist Radha and Krishna most of the time. And they are internal potency of the Lord. All the Sakhis are internal potency of the Lord. They are not any kind of jiva, not Nitya Siddha, not Sadhana Siddha, not Kripa Siddha. Internal potency, completely separate division. Huh? What? Okay. Okay, 300 to 302.
Those who develop longing for the bhava of the gopis after seeing the beauty of the deity form or after hearing about his various pastimes are qualified for sadhana of either of these two types of Kamanuga Bhakti. In the Padma Purana, it is said that men too can attain this bhakti. The Padma Purana gives an example of males practicing Kamanuga. All the sage previously living in Dandaka forest who saw Lord Rama and desired to enjoy his very handsome form as Lord Hari, Krishna, attained female forms and were born in Gokula. Attaining the Lord by their Kama, they became liberated from the ocean of the material world.
So that is Sambhog Ichamaiva. They wanted directly to satisfy Lord directly.
The development of conjugal love can be possible only with those who are already engaged in following the regulative principles of devotional service, specifically in the worship of Radha and Krishna in the temple. Such devotees gradually develop a spontaneous love for the deity, and by hearing of the Lord's exchange of loving affairs with the gopis, they gradually become attracted to these pastimes. After this spontaneous attraction becomes highly developed, the devotee is placed in either of the above-mentioned categories. This development of conjugal love for Krishna is not manifested in women only. The material body has nothing to do with spiritual love and affairs. A woman may develop an attitude for becoming a friend of Krishna, and similarly, a man may develop the feature of becoming a gopi in Vrindavan. How a devotee in the form of a man can desire to become a gopi is stated in the Padma Purana as follows. In days gone by, there were many sages in Dandakaranya. Dandakaranya is the name of the forest where Lord Ramachandra lived after being banished by his father for 14 years. At that time, there were many advanced sages who were captivated by the beauty of Lord Ramachandra and who desired to become women in order to embrace the Lord. Later on, these sages appeared in Gokula Vrindavan when Krishna advented himself there, and they were born as gopis or girlfriends of Krishna. In this way, they attained the perfection of spiritual life. The story of the sages of Dandakaranya can be explained as follows. When Lord Ramachandra was residing in Dandakaranya, the sages who were engaged in devotional service there became attracted by his beauty and immediately thought of the gopis of Vrindavana, who enjoyed conjugal love and affection with Krishna. In this instance, it is clear that the sages of Dandakaran desired conjugal love in the manner of the gopis, although they were well aware of the Supreme Lord as both Krishna and Lord Ramachandra. They knew that although Ramachandra was an ideal king and could not accept more than one wife, Lord Krishna, being the full-fledged personality of Godhead, could fulfill the desires of all of them in Vrindavana. These sages also concluded that the form of Lord Krishna is more attractive than that of Lord Ramachandra, and so they prayed to become gopis in their future lives to be associated with Krishna. Lord Ramachandra remained silent, and his silence shows that he accepted the prayers of the sages. Thus, they were blessed by Lord Ramachandra to have association with Lord Krishna in the future lives. As a result of this benediction, they all took birth as women in the wombs of gopis at Gokula, and as they had desired in their previous lives, they enjoyed the company of Lord Krishna, who was present at that time in Gokula Vrindavan. The perfection of their human form of life was thus achieved by their generating a transcendental sentiment to share conjugal love with Lord Krishna.
So Prabhupada has clarified this. However, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells that before seeing the deity form, of course, seeing the deity form of Radha and Krishna, one can develop the desire of a bhava of a gopi, but hearing is mandatory. It is even without seeing the deity form. Just by hearing, one can develop the mood of the gopis. I'll read from his commentary directly. Firstly, I'll read this also just to get more clarification on this. It is 299. 299. Here Jiva Goswami clarifies this. Firstly, Tad Bhavichatmika and Sambhogechamai means following those who are calm prayas. It is not calm prayas that we talked about the Kubja. It is not that. Here calm prayas means directly wants to satisfy Krishna. Kubja had a little bit tendency to enjoy herself also. So it is not that calm prayas. This word used calm prayas is different from describing Kubja, who has predominance of material karma. Not. But because she also got the desired result, because she desired it for Krishna. So we'll see in the Bhava Bhakti also, even if somebody has liberation, desire of enjoyment and all those things, still they get. Sometimes the Bhava vas means or the Ratya bhas. So it is having a prominence or desire of giving direct conjugal enjoyment to Krishna. That is Sambhogamaya. So Sambhogecha. Okay. Tad Bhavechatmika means that type of bhakti whose very life is the desire for the particular rati of a cherished woman of Braja. This should be understood to be the main type of Kamanuga bhakti. They do not want to satisfy Krishna directly, but they have the desire for the particular rati of those gopis who is satisfying Krishna directly. Okay, so that is the difference. We already read. Sambhoga means conjugal enjoyment. Really means the same thing. Sambhogechamai has the aim of conjugal enjoyment with Krishna. And tad bhava ichha matmika bhakti has a desire for the sweetness of love of the woman of Braj. So it is clear. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells the same. He just gives an example. Leader of the Sambhogechamai group is Chandravali, and leader of the tad bhavachatmika is Srimati Radharani. Okay. Now, no, they are not Anuga. To clarify that, Acharyas are giving, that is why Atmika it was written. They are there already, they are doing this. But those who wants to follow, those who wants to give directly enjoyment to Krishna, they follow Chandravali. Their leader is Chandravali. Okay. Now, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur on this 300 to 300, those who develop the longing for bhava of the gopis. So here, firstly, Jiva Goswami tells, just I'll read that here. Without hearing, there will be no manifestation of basic forms and pastimes. Even though it is described there, the deity worship of, by seeing the deity of Krishna and gopis, but Jiva Goswami clarified. First, one has to hear. Without hearing, there will be no manifestation of the basic forms and pastimes. Hearing about the Krishna and the gopis, even without seeing, is also effective. Even if one does not see the deity of the Krishna and the gopis in that manner, just by hearing is also effective. These persons develop longing for the bhava of the gopis and thus become qualified for those type of sadhana. Okay. 3012. I'll just read here. Yeah. The sages, Jiva Goswami, referred to all those sages who had desired following the gopis of Krishna in Gokula. Seeing Rama, they desired to enjoy with him when he would appear in the future in the beautiful form of Krishna. They thus asked for his boon in their minds. Krishna's future appearance was well known to the learned from the scriptures. So they need to know, even though in the Raganuga, they are sadhakas. They know that Krishna is God, but they want to cultivate that mood of the Ragatmika Bhaktas, where Ragatmika Bhaktas does not know that Yogamaya covers them, and they just want to satisfy Krishna in their relationships. After obtaining a silent boon from Ram, who acts as a desire tree, they attained bodies of women in the wombs of gopis in different regions. But they were then born from these gopis who then moved to Nanda Gokula. All were in different regions they were born, but all they moved to Nanda Gokula. Famous everywhere as Gokula. Due to their karma alone, they attained the Lord in the form of attractive Krishna and later attained liberation from the material ocean. These gopis are sadhana siddhas are indicated in the following verse. Now Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in the same verse. Those gopis became freed from material ocean. That means that they became free from the material portions of their bodies. In Srimad Bhagavatam it comes that they were very intensely hankering to go in the Ras dance. So because of that hankering, constantly meditating on Krishna, means like they have whatever the material body they have. Okay. So they left their material body at the home only, and they all went to in the Ras dance. It comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. They all left their material body at home only, at their respective homes, and they went in Ras dance. So they went to satisfy Lord Krishna there in the Ras dance with his spiritual body, with their spiritual body, not his, that time it's with their spiritual bodies. Okay, so that is what here. At the time of Rasa dance, when they were locked in the house, they burned up the material portion of their bodies by the separation from Krishna caused by their being locked up. It means that they did not burn because they again returned then to their house also. Okay, but that by that time, their material body itself had actually transformed into the spiritual body. Now they had only the spiritual body. Okay, after once going there, now they had only the spiritual body. It comes in Srimad Bhagavatam that they were at home also, their bodies were at home, but they went to Krishna in Rasa Leela, and then again they returned in that body. But after going there, the material body itself has become the spiritual body. The particular explanation can be seen in the commentary of Vishnath in the 10th canto. Okay. Yeah.
The other gopis, they went with their spiritual bodies. They had spiritual bodies.
Of course, the other gopi, they are the sadhana siddha. Firstly, so how it happens, it is described there only. That is called Vastu Siddhi. Firstly, when one attains bhava, and in the perfectional stage of the bhava, when he dies in the sense that when he leaves this body, he is sent to some home lila with the associates of the Lord. And there, they learn, they develop more intense desire, and then there the whole means whatever the little bit portion of the material bodies or whatever is there, they just get extinguished, they get complete spiritual body, and that is called Vastu Siddhi. Vastu is sometimes called this, like anything, material things also called Vastu Siddhi. Now he has got fully perfection, complete spiritual body. So that's why it comes in Srimad Bhagavatam that one is sent to Bhaum Leela of Lord after leaving the body in Bhava, when one leaves the body, even Prema also. When one attains the Prema in the same body, when he leaves the body, he is sent in the Bhaum Leela of Lord there. And there he attains the Vastu Siddhi. That is the highest perfection of the Prema also.
So this next birth, in this next birth, they don't have spiritual body from the beginning.
Yeah, means for the sadhana siddha bhaktas, they don't have they have the little bit of the material portion is there. I cannot understand what does it mean that little bit, because everywhere Acharya explains that whatever little bit is the material portion is there. So I do not have any understanding how to understand. But for the sadhana siddha bhaktas, they do not have the complete in the beginning. But they attain gradually means by when they are in the Bhaum Leela with the Lord, automatically there's so much intense desire that also gets burned and becomes completely spiritual.
But in the Bhauma Leela, they attained the same type of body which they have in the spiritual world.
Of course, that is why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur described now, because of they closed their eyes, they want to go to Krishna. So they closed their eyes, meditating on Krishna to go there. And because of that meditation, there, whatever the little bit portion of the material body that got extinguished, and it became completely spiritual. Because of their intense meditation on Krishna, because they wanted to go and satisfy Krishna. Because of that, whatever the little bit material portion was there, that got burned, and they got complete spiritual body.
I read something like that in the 10th canto, where some gopis were unable to join rasa dance, and they were sitting and meditating on Krishna. And
So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that is what here it is been talked about. The sages, they are unable to join, but then they are meditating. Because of their meditation on the Krishna, their material bodies, portion of the material bodies got, whatever the material portions got burned, and they attained full spiritual body, and then they joined Krishna. Okay. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells like this. Okay. Where were we? 303.
a person who serves solely and completely on the path of Vaidya Bhakti with a desire for the best conjugal pleasure with the Lord becomes a queen in Dwaraka. Conjugal love is divided into two classifications, namely conjugal love as husband and wife, and conjugal love as lover and beloved. One who develops conjugal love for Krishna as a wife is promoted to Dwaraka, where the devotee becomes the queen of the Lord. One who develops conjugal love for Krishna as a lover is promoted to Goloka Vrindavana, to associate with the gopis and enjoy love and affairs with Krishna there. We should note carefully, however, that this conjugal love for Krishna, either as gopi or as queen, is not limited only to women. Even men can develop such sentiments, as was evidenced by the sages of Dandakaranya. If someone simply desires conjugal love, but does not follow in the footsteps of the gopis, he is promoted to association with the Lord at Dwaraka.
So there are two types of conjugal love. Here it is being described. In the Prema Bhakti, it will be clarified in the words also. He will just write that one is Swakiya, one is Parkiya. It's loved, beloved and lover. One is husband and wife. That is called Swakiya. In the Parkiya also Swakiya Bhav comes and all those things which is compatible and not. We'll see all those in the later oceans, in second, third, and fourth. But this that one is like in Swakiya, and was Parakiya. Okay. So this, if one wants to attain Krishna as his husband, or even the maid servant of the wife of Krishna, that comes in the wife of Krishna, I'm telling, not the beloved of Krishna. Then it comes in the Sakya. And that is actually Vaidhi Bhakti, not the Raganuga Bhakti. Because their wives in the Dwarka, all the wives of Krishna knew that Krishna is God. They had this awe and reverence. Okay. But this type of is comes under Raganuga Bhakti. Firstly Ragatmika, and then those who follow is Raganuga Bhakti. However, here this has been described just to clarify that in the Vaidhi Bhakti also one can meditate in this manner, that one wants to satisfy Krishna as his wife, or as, if we apply the same thing, tad bhavik chatma, what was it? Tad? So in that manner, they can also attain the same thing, but that will not be called Raganuga sadhana. That will be called Vaidhi sadhana. Okay. Because here it has been again told that those, they attain Krishna in Dwarka or Mathura or wherever. But those who wants to satisfy Krishna as his beloved, then he attains Goloka Vrindavan. And as has been described earlier from the first verse itself, that Raganuga Bhakti is done only for Braj Krishna. 30, could I read? Wait a minute. It was 303, no? Okay, not needed. 304.
Similarly, the Mahakurma Purana said, the saintly sons of Agni attained bodies of women by austerity and attained as their husband the unborn Supreme Lord Vasudeva, the source of the universe. In the Mahakurma Purana it is stated, great sages who were the sons of fire gods rigidly followed the regulative principles in their desire to have conjugal love for Krishna. As such, in their next lives, they were able to associate with the Lord, the origin of all creation, who is known as Vasudeva and Krishna, and all of them got him as their husband.
Jiva Goswami here clarifies, I'll read his commentary, that this type of bhakti is actually Vaidhi Bhakti. He writes in why? Because here in the verse, tapasa has been used, tapasya. And that is, tapasya is done according to the scriptures. So Jiva Goswami clarifies, I'll just read here. Verse number 304. No? Here. Tapsa means Vaidhi Bhakti. A different type of desire from that type of Raganuga Bhakti is also indicated by mentioning Vaidhi Bhakti. So in the Vaidhi Bhakti also, if they have this awe and reverence, the knowledge that Krishna is God, and they want the same type of bhava, they also attain, but in the Sakya, that is Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay. The next verse. Now Sambandha Nuga will start from 305. The Kamanuga has been discussed with in the Vaidhi Bhakti also, that has been indicated that in the Vaidhi Bhakti also one can have that type of bhava and can attain Krishna in Dwarka or at different places. Okay.
Sambandhanuga Bhakti is defined as follows. The devotees define Sambandhanuga Bhakti as that bhakti in which there is a contemplation of oneself as a parent, friend, or servant of Krishna, and identification with that role. Practicing devotees, greedy for the relationship of parent, friend, or servant, perform this bhakti with traits of the behavior and mood of Nanda, parent, Subala, friend, and others. Parenthood or friendship. Devotees who are attracted to Krishna as parents or as friends should follow in the footsteps of Nanda Maharaja or Subala respectively. Nanda Maharaja is the foster father of Krishna, and out of all of the friends of Krishna, Subala is the most intimate in Vrajabhumi. In the development of becoming either the father or friend of the Lord, there are two varieties. One method is that one may try to become the father of the Lord directly, and the other is that one may follow Nanda Maharaja and cherish the ideal of being Krishna's father. Out of these two, the attempt to directly become the father of Krishna is not recommended. Such a development can become polluted with Mayavada in personal philosophy. The Mayavadis or monists think that they themselves are Krishna, and if one thinks that he himself has become Nanda Maharaja, then his parental love will become contaminated with the Mayavada philosophy. The Mayavada philosophical way of thinking is offensive, and no offender can enter into the kingdom of God to associate with Krishna.
Here, 2-3 things have been talked. What is Sambandhanuga? If somebody has this bhava as a servant, as a friend, friend means like when Balram is there, that also comes in the category of friend. Someone who has this tendency here, like brother, parents, and means such type of friend or the brother who has little bit of parental affection also, like Balram has little bit of parental affection for the Krishna also. They all come in the Sakhya only. There are different types of sakhas are there of Krishna. 4 types of sakhas. We'll be reading in the 3rd ocean, all those things. So, Sakhya, sorry, not Sakhya, firstly Dashya. Dashya, Sakhya, and Vatsalya. All these are sambandhanika, means if one devotees who are eternal associates of the Lord. So they are sambandhatmika bhaktas. And those who follow their moods of their, they are called sambandhanugas. This is sambandhanuga bhakti. But one should be very careful while performing the Sambandhanuga Bhakti, that one should not think that he is Nanda, or he is Yashoda, or he is Suvala. Then it becomes like Aprad, and he goes to hell. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clarifies, I'll read the commentary. That is why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells that previously only Rupa Goswami has told. While in the sadhana, this is also one type of sadhana bhakti only. One has to perform bhakti with both Siddha Deha and sadhana Deha. From sadhana Deha, one has to perform all those Ekadasi Vrata, following the Buddhist missile, taking shelter of lotus feet of Guru. So those things will clarify his path further and further. He will just generate the mood of that sambandha. He will not try to become like Nanda Maharaj. He will not try to become like Subala. Okay? So that is very much needed. Otherwise, it is called ahangaro pashana, means he is worshipping his own ahamkar, means false ego. He wants to become like Nanda Maharaj. Like one wants to become Krishna. It is same like one wants to become Nanda Maharaj. It is same. So he goes to hell then. I'll read here Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur both. Which was 3056. Okay, 6. However, one should not think oneself as Nanda or Subala. There are 2 ways of identification. Thinking oneself different from those parents, but in a similar role, such as a parent. Like all the Brajvasi in Braja here, in Bhaumlila also. They are thinking Krishna as his son only. They are giving him the more love than their own son. Okay. So they do not become the parent of the Krishna, but they have the same mood, same bhav. as the Nanda Maharaj. Okay. And thinking oneself to be Nanda or Suvala. Okay. The second type is not suitable. One should not think of oneself as Nanda or Suvala. Just as worshipping the Lord, thinking that one is identical to him is not proper. Similarly, worshipping his associates while thinking that one is identical to them is not proper, since it will be later explained that those forms are eternal like the Lord's form. So Nanda and Yashoda, they are eternal. They are actually also coming from the Sarupa Shakti of the Lord only. Okay. They are eternal form. One will commit offense to those associates through thinking of occupying their identities. It is improper to think of oneself identical to those Braj devotees. In Shaktir Bhakti, for instance, one should not identify oneself completely with Suvala, thinking I am Suvala. Though a type of identification exists, when one carries out the practice of Ahankaropashna and thinks I am Krishna, one simply goes to hell, because this type of identification produces thoughts which are completely hostile to the inhabitants of Braja, such as Nanda, since one competes with them. And because one competes with them, God cannot tolerate those things. If somebody is competing with this Shuddha Bhakta, so God cannot tolerate, this becomes offense and he has to go to hell. Though he may be remembering Krishna and whoever, means any form of the Krishna, but he goes to hell. Bhakti is service, which is to be performed with the sadhana rupa and siddha rupa deha that we have already described. It has already been, okay. This phrase means here in this verse also comes with symptoms of the mood and behavior of Subala and Nanda needs to be explained. If one does not take shelter of a guru, offer respects, observe Ekadasi, etc., using the argument that Subal and other did not perform those acts, we should only follow them, one goes to hell, since one commits an offense to the guru. Because in this Raganuga Bhakti also, one has to follow the guru, Siddha Guru. So because guru has told him to perform, he is not following, that will become Guru Aparadh. Therefore, the author has said that it is a fault if one fails to perform the compulsory angas of bhakti, such as observing Ekadasi. The person qualified for bhakti is at fault for failing to perform all the important angas of bhakti. There are some important angas of bhakti that needs to be performed always in whatever sadhana one is. The first 25, something we discussed during when we started the 64 limbs. So those things needs to be performed always. Therefore, the mood and action of Subala, Nanda, and others have been described in the Bhagavatam, so that the devotee can perform similar service mentally in Siddhadeha and the Sadhak Deha. He follows the directions of the Acharyas. Okay.
It is said in scripture that on the instruction of Narada and an old carpenter living in Hastinapura worshipped a deity form of Krishna as his son and attained perfection.
So from this, it seems like that, I do not know, but for me, it seems like that even the Premi Bhakta, those who are not Ragatmika Bhakta, they can also give this Raganuga Bhav. It seems like that. We will see from this story, because Narad Muni instructed him that if perform worship the deity form of Krishna as his son, and he attained in the next life, he was a Gopa in Braj. Like, and from this also it seems like that in the Braj Bhagavatamrita, Kamakhya Devi, she is not in the Braj, Durga Devi means. But she gave the mantra to that Brahman, and he gave that mantra to the Gop Kumar, and Gop Kumar attained Braj, means Gokula. So it seems to me, I don't know, I'm not clear at how it happens, but even any Premi Bhaktas, either those who have got Prema from the Vaidhi or from the Raganuga, they can give this Raganuga Bhakti to other. It seems like that.
In the Skanda Purana, there is a story of an old man residing in Hastinapur, capital of the kingdom of the Pandus, who desired Krishna as his beloved son. This old man was instructed by Narada to follow in the footsteps of Nanda Maharaj. Thus he achieved success.
I think, wait, the same story goes? No, I'll just tell the story then. Acharyas have described that what is the actual stories. 307. Yeah. 307. What happened with that carpenter? We should know then. Where did he take part? Because that is why I told that it seems like me, appears to me that this is the thing. This verse shows the first type of identity which is approved. Adhistar now here means the deity form. Attaining perfection means that he attained the form of an elderly cowherd parent of the Lord during the past times in which Brahma stole the boys and calves, and Krishna himself became the sons of the cowherd man. So in the Skanda Purana it is given that it was spoken by Sanat Kumar. And by Sanat Kumar, there is one more story is given in the part is spoken that King Prabhakar also. Though the king was without a son, he did not desire one because he thought that that was his karma. Thinking of Krishna, the eternal Lord of the universe, the soul of all, and the object of Upanishadic knowledge as his son, he installed him with Abhishek as the king. He did not pray for a son, but the Lord became his son. The Lord himself said, I have become your son. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives more, the same story he talks. The Skanda Purana offers proof that one should perform service following the sadhaka bhaktas using one's sadhaka teha. Already described this. He installed the deity form. He is talking about the king, Prabhakar, of Krishna, the son of Nanda. His service to the deity indicates that he did not meditate on the service and the mood of the Nanda, which he could do without direct deity service, but performed physical service using his sadhaka deha, thinking that deity was directly Krishna, not to a deity form. Therefore, the sadhaka should perform service to the deity form, since he does not have direct contact with the Lord. It should be understood that the aged carpenter performed service to deity as his son, following after great sadhakas. He attained perfection during the past times in which Brahma stole the calves. At that time, Krishna became the sons of all cowherd men. So, even if one does not, like in the King Prabhakar, does not meditate on the mood of the Nanda and Subala, but he performs the physical service, like as his son, he installed him as king, because after him, his son was to be king and all those things. Then, even by performing the physical service also, one can attain that bhava. Page 08.
It is said in the Narayana Vyuha Stava, I pay my respects repeatedly to those who constantly and eagerly meditate upon the Lord as their husband, son, well-wisher, brother, father, or friend. There is a statement in the Narayana Vyuha Stava prayers that persons who are always engaged in thinking of the Lord as their husband, friend, father, or well-wisher are always worshipable by everyone.
So here just given, we will be discussing more in the later parts. The Suhit is one who acts for one's benefit unconditionally, and Mitra is one who plays with the Lord. They are called Mitra, and there is Suhit also, like Balram. He acts like his elder brother, his like sometimes parents also. So he's Suhit, like that. So this is a prayer. Okay, not given. Anyway, the last verse of the Rajananga Bhakti. Yes. Yeah, it was given a footnotes by Bhanu Maharaj, some 25 something, 20 limbs, and then 5 more something was there. I forgot. It comes in during the.
Among 5, 1 or 2 or
Probably, I do not remember exactly all episode. Do you remember, Prue? There were some like 20 limbs must be followed, means it is mandatory something. So the first 20 are mandatory, I think it was like that.
Was 20 and five and the last 5.
So they are not mandatory. Among 5, 1 or 2 or 3 or all.
Yeah, that we read among 5, even the 1 also can miss. But hearing and chanting everywhere is, hearing chanting comes there also. In the first 20 also it comes that hearing and chanting.
It was said that the most important among these 64 angas are first 20 and the last 5 that's what I remember.
Yeah, but the last 5 also we'll see there what is there in the commentary also we'll see after the class what is there will get clarified. I think there in all the 20s also came Mathura Bas. It came, I remember.
Yeah.
Nam Kirtan came, Sravan also came. And in the 20 also it was given the first 3 is the most important, taking shelter of the Guru and all those things. Yeah, yeah, of course. We'll see what is there after once we get out from this. Okay, the last verse of the Raganaga Bhakti.
Krishna tad bhakta karunya matra labhai kahetu ka pushti margataya karishchit yam raganu gochyate. The mercy of Krishna and his devotees is the only cause of attaining Raganuga Bhakti. Some call this type of devotion pushti marg.
Pushti means nourishing, that type of path which is nourishing one's devotion. That is why in the Ballava charts, it is called Pushti marg. Yes.
This spontaneous love for Krishna can be developed only by the special mercy of Krishna or his pure devotee. This process of devotional service is sometimes called Pushti Marga. Pushti means nourishing and Marga means path. Such development of sentiment nourishes devotional service to the higher standard. Thus, it is called the path of nourishment or Pushti Marga. The Vallabha Sampradaya, which belongs to the Vishnu Swami sect of Vaishnava religion, worships Krishna in this Pushti Marga. Generally, devotees in Gujarat worship Balakrishna under this heading of Pushti Marga. Thus ends the second wave concerning sadhana bhakti in the eastern section of the Bhakti Rasamritas.
So, this Pushti Marga, normally in the Ballava chart, Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, they worship Krishna only as his son, not the Kamanuga. They only Sambandhanuga. In the Sambandhanuga, also in the Vatsalyaras. In the Ballava chart, they worship like Balakrishna. Many of the, even in the, now it has just become the fashion. Keeping the Balakrishna, Laddu Gopal, something. I saw, even when we do preaching in the morning time, in Chaitanya Pradarshana, there is big Balakrishna, Miss Laddu Gopal is kept. Anybody, chanting, not chanting, whatever, I have seen, they come, hug Balakrishna, kiss. What is this? Something else. Just, I have seen myself, 2-3 days I have seen. Some girl comes, hugs him and kisses him. So these just bogus things. Chaitanya Pradarshani. They just kept to be sold. Yeah. So they come and do. Anyway, why this is called the mercy of Krishna and his devotee is only cause of attaining Radha Bhakti? Because in the Vaidhi Bhakti, Agyat Sukirti may be the cause. Kripa is always the cause. But in Radhanuga Bhakti, no Agyat Sukirti will be the cause. Only the mercy of Krishna or his devotee is the cause. Only cause. There is nothing else. No, leave the karma, jnana and all those things, leave. Varnashram and jnana. Even the Agyat Sukirti will also, only the mercy of Krishna and his devotees is the cause. Okay? No question, any doubt? We'll continue then. The next, before that, I think Maharaj has nicely summarized. We'll read just the summary in order to remember all those things, whatever we have read. Raga Naga Bhakti. Not whole. Okay, we can read just in 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Chapter 15 and 16 of Maharaj. Maharaj has summarized will be in Chaitan Chitamit, Madhya Lila, chapter 121. These things have been described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami when Sanatan means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving instruction to Sanatan Goswami. So there these things have been described. Somebody can read Waves of Devotion, chapter 15. Yeah.
Which page?
107. Just for the summary purpose, because everything has been described just to keep a track at what all these things are like.
तो खोजिए मैं पढ़ता हूँ. Chapter 15, spontaneous devotional service. The second wave of Eastern Ocean deals with sadhana bhakti, which has two divisions, Vaidhi and Raganuga. Chapters 2 through 14 have described Vaidhi sadhana. Chapters 15 and 16 describe Raganuga sadhana. Ragatmika bhakti. Raganuga sadhana is a devotional practice that strives to cultivate the moods of Krishna associated in Vrindavan. Thus, before describing Raganuga sadhana, we must first describe the moods of devotional attachment found in Vrindavan's eternal residents. The lector of devotion uses the term Raganuga to denote the devotional attachment of Vrindavan's residents.
Okay. Yeah, Maharaj has used the previous version of books, that's why he's citing like that.
In Chaitanya Charitamrita, however, Srila Prabhupada directly translated the corresponding text from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and therein reveals the correct term to be
So Maharaj
Ragatmika.
clarifies that it is actually Ragatmika, but we already discussed that because it was written, the Nectar of Devotion, very early days, in the 1969-70. So during that time, even devotees are not much knowing about the technical terms and all those things. So they just transcribed something and yeah.
A Ragatmika Bhakta embodies the perfection of a spontaneous love for Krishna, and a Raganuga Bhakta follows in the wake of the perfect devotees, earnestly endeavoring to achieve their perfect mood of a spontaneous love. The following texts prove that this is the proper use of terminology. पढ़ना है क्या सुनो?
पढ़ सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं.
विराजन्तीं अभिव्यक्तां ब्रजवासी जनादिषु रागात्मिकां अनुप्रीता यासा रागानुबोध्यते. Devotional service in spontaneous love is vividly expressed and manifested by the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Devotional service that accords with their devotional service is called Raganuga Bhakti, or devotional service following in the wake of a spontaneous loving service.
So, if question comes, like yesterday devotees were asking that there is a question, what is Raganuga Bhakti, something like that. They're confused. You can write this definition. This is also given at Prabhupada and you get marks. If that question comes, no problem, you get marks. This is the actually is properly defined here, the Chaitanya. This has been translated by Prabhupada himself. Yeah.
Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22.150. Ishte Sarasiti Dagraham Paramavishta Bhavet Tanmayi Ya Bhavet Bhakti Tatra Ragatmikodita. When one becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his natural inclination to love fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. That is called transcendental attachment, and devotional service according to that attachment is called Ragatmika, or spontaneous devotional service.
So now it is clear that what is Ragatmika Bhakti and what is Raganuga Bhakti. Okay.
Thus, devotional service consists of rag, deep attachment. It's called Ragatmika, a spontaneous loving service. If a devotee covets such a position, he is considered to be most fortunate. In the next Chaitanya Charitamrita 22.153, Krishnadas Kaviraj writes, Lobhe Vrajvasira Bhave Kore Anugati Shastra Jukti Nahi Mane Raga Nugar Prakriti. To cover the devotional mood of the Ragatmika.
Covet means hanker. Yeah.
To cover the devotional mood of the Ragatmika devotee is the nature of Raganuga. Conclusion. These texts clearly establish that Ragatmika Bhakti is the perfect devotional attachment found in the residents of Vrindavan, and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is the practice of a devotee who aspires to develop their devotional mood.
So Maharaj has nicely clarified all those things.
Meaning of Ragatmika. Literally, Ragatmika means one whose very essence, Atma, is intense attachment for Krishna. Rag. Rag also means color. Wearing red-colored eyeglasses causes one to see red everywhere. Similarly, when we have an extremely intense attachment, we see the object of our aversion everywhere all the time. The passions of this world are only weak and perverted reflections of the range of spiritual emotions felt in the spiritual world. Real raga is the passionate obsession with pleasing Lord Krishna. The passion to serve Krishna consumes a devotee's consciousness to such an extent that he or she cannot think of anything else under any circumstance. The Rupa Goswami therefore defines ragatmika bhakti as a spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in thoughts of it with an intense desire of love. We find this intense absorption only in Vrindavan, although it is present to a lesser degree in Dwarka. The reason for this was explained in the second chapter of this book. Two types of ragatmika bhakti. Rupa Goswami divides ragatmika bhakti into two categories: Kamarupa, sensual attraction, and Sambandharup, relationship. Devotees experiencing Kamarupa feel an intense desire to satisfy the Lord in conjugal love. Sambandharupa includes devotees who experience an intense desire to satisfy the Lord as his parent, friend, or intimate servant. Although conjugal love, Kam, is also a type of relationship, Sambandha, Rupa Goswami gives it a separate category to emphasize its preeminence. Bhagavatam 7.1.31.
We just read yesterday. Jiv Goswami has given you an analogy. Everyone is coming, includes the king. Still, we tell them, king is also coming.
Bhagavatam 7.1.31. So Rupa Goswami next quotes the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Gopiya Kamat Bhayat Kamso Dvesat Yadayo Nipa Samandhat Vishneha Snehat Yuyam Bhaktya Vayam Vivo. Arya illustrated the gopis by their lust desire, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familiar relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna.
So here, Yadus, we described that how it can indicate the Nanda, the cowherd man in the Braja also. Yesterday we described this.
Srila Rupa Goswami quotes this verse to substantiate his statement that there are two types of ragatmika bhakti. This will be explained further in a later section. The main point of Narada's statement is that we should somehow or other absorb the mind in Krishna. If we do so, by any of the methods mentioned in this verse, we can become purified and obtain the supreme destination. For example, Kamsa and Shishupal feared and envied Krishna, but their emotion caused them to think about him obsessively. Thus, they are purified to such an extent that they achieve the same destination as that of the gopis.
It means that they attained, like Krishna is condensed Brahman, and they attain the Brahman Messiahs, but Krishna is called condensed Brahman. So in that manner, they achieve the same end. It is not that they attain the same in the absolute manner. Yeah.
Inimical emotions recommended. It is not that Rupa Goswami or the Srimad Bhagavatam are recommending the development of inimical emotions towards Krishna. For example, King Vena also hated God, but unlike Kamsa and Shishupal, his mind was not absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. Therefore, his hatred for God only sent him to hell.
Yes. So when one has some hatred, like in the modern world mostly, but they do not always think about the Lord, so they will go to hell. It is not that they will get purified just because they have hatred for the Lord. Why Kamsa and Shishupal got purified? Because they are always thinking about the Lord only, how to kill him or whatever. Always thinking of the Lord. Always means always, 24 hours a day. They were thinking always about the Lord only. Even Shishupal, always about the Lord only. That's why they got the Brahma sign. Yeah.
So we get
Shishupal got the Ishwar signs actually, immersed in the body of Krishna himself.
Thus, we clearly see that it is not envy or fear of God which Narada recommends, but total absorption of the mind in him, even if out of envy or fear. Category of Ragatmika Bhakti. This text confirms Srila Rupa Goswami's division of Ragatmika Bhakti into two categories, Kamarupa and Sambandharupa. Narada mentions 6 different moods of mental absorption in Krishna: lusty desire in the gopis, gopya kamar, fear in Kamsa, ayat Kamsa, envy in Supal and other kings of Chaitya, Vesat Chaitya Dayo, kinship in the Vrishnis or the Yadavas, Sambandhat Krishnayah, affection in the Pandavas, Snehat Yuyam, and devotional service in Narada, Bhaktya Vayam, fear
But-
and envy.
But Maharaj will also we described that only this kinship in the Vrishnis or the Yadavas, when considering this as these Vrishnis are cowherd men, and lusty desire in the gopis, gopya kamar. Only these two are the ragatmika bhakti. Other are, this is not bhakti at all, fear in Kamsa, in vain Sisupal. And this is by Narada, Bhaktaya Vayam, is Vaidhi Bhakti. And affection in the Pandavas also Vaidhi Bhakti.
Fear and envy. Clearly, fear and envy are not genuine forms of spontaneous devotion. Srila Prabhupada writes, the attraction of Kamsa to Krishna in fear and the attraction of Shishupal in envy are not accepted as devotional service, however, because their attitudes are not favorable. Devotional service in Narada. Narada attachment to Krishna is called Bhaktya. Jiva Goswami explains that Sanskrit verb tense used here indicate that Narada's devotional service arises from a sense of duty.
What was the sense of duty? That Narada was told by the Bhakti Vedantas, we are discussing the glories of the Lord. So please hear this. So it is in the scripture, it is told when senior or specifically sadhus tells to hear, it is also mentioned that one should hear the glories of the Lord. So Narada started hearing the glories of the Lord. That is the sense of the duty. It will clarify it. I think Maharaj will clarify.
Thus, it is Vaidhi Bhakti and cannot be counted among the genuine forms of Ragatmika Bhakti. Affection. The Pandava affection for Krishna may or may not be Ragatmika Bhakti, depending on whether or not it is mixed with awe and reverence. Generally, it is mixed with mood of reverence, which forces them to be restrained by formality and etiquette and hinders their Ragatmika Bhakti. However, when this reverence subsides, their affection can be Ragatmika Bhakti.
But just wait a minute. But Jiva Goswami tells that it can never be, I do not know Maharaj wrote here, can be called Ragatmika Bhakti because he describes it in two ways. Either in the Sneha can be taken the highest form, the Prema, or in an indifferent way. Jiva Goswami clarifies that it will always be called like Vaidhi Bhakti only, not the Ragatmika Bhakti. Of course, Prema Bhaktas, they are Prema Bhaktas. I do not know Maharaj wrote like this. Yeah, of course, only Dwarka Krishna. So Jiva Goswami writes like that, that this is called Vaidhi Bhakti only.
Srila Prabhupada explains, again he analyzed the affection of the Yadu. If it is not on the platform of friendship, then it is spontaneous love. But if it is on the platform of regulative principles, then it is not.
So it means that if we take the platform, Yadus, if we take the cowherd man, then it will be called Ragatmika Bhakti. If we take the Yadus of the Dwarka, means Mathura, then it will be called Vaidhi Bhakti. I think understanding this, Maharaj understood and then he wrote, but it is completely different. Prabhupada's statement is clear that if we take it like Yadus in the spontaneous love, means like the Vrindavan, then it will be called Ragatmika. And if we take it as of Dwarka, then it will be called Vaidhi.
Lusty desire and kinship. 4 of the 6 types of attachment, fear, envy, respectful affection, and obedient devotion, have been excluded from Ragatmika Bhakti. Now the clear.
Yeah, Ragat excluded 4 types of fear, fear, envy. Fear, envy does not come in any. Respectful affection comes under Vaidhi Bhakti, and obedient devotion also comes under Vaidhi Bhakti. So that is it's right that it has been excluded from Ragatmika Bhakti. Yeah.
Only the remaining 2, lusty desire and familiar relationship, are genuine types of Ragatmika Bhakti. This confirms Srila Rupa Goswami's analysis. They achieved the same goal. This Srimad Bhagavatam text indicates that Kamsa, Shishupal, the Yadut, and the Gopis all achieved the same goal of life. How could the Lord award his devotion? How could the Lord award his devotees with the same goal as his enemies? To clear this doubt, Sri Rupa Goswami cites the analogy of the sun sign, Brahman, and the sun globe, Bhagavan. The demons and the devotees both achieved the same goal, Krishna. However, the demons achieved only Krishna as a Brahman aspect, whereas the gopis achieved the highest Bhagavan realization of Krishna. The Rupa Goswami quotes from Brahmanda Purana and Srimad Bhagavatam to prove that the demons achieved only impersonal liberation in Brahman. Summary. There are 6 basic methods of focusing the mind on Krishna. Although all of them are liberating, only Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa are genuine types of Ragatmika Bhakti.
And the first type, fear and envy, is not any type of bhakti.
Kama Rupa, sensual attraction. Kama, lust, is the intense thirst to satisfy the senses. There are 2 types of Kama, material and spiritual. Material.
So actually, Sridhar from in his commentary, like here it is the 6 basic methods of focusing on mind. In his commentary, he clarifies that it is actually only 5 basic methods for focusing mind on Krishna. From this, taking this word. Not 5, actually 4 he writes. Yeah. And then also he clarifies that there that in the Pandavas section and in the Yaduj section, he clarifies in there only the spontaneous love can be taken. He does not clarify that only in the Gopis sense, but Jiva Goswami clarifies further that in the Yaduj section also it can be taken as spontaneous love if the Yaduj or the Brishni will be taken as a cowherd man. Okay.
Material calm is the intense thirst to satisfy our own senses. Spiritual calm is the intense thirst to satisfy Krishna's spiritual senses. The Prabhupada writes, this lust is the devotee's excessive desire to serve the Lord in a particular capacity. Distinguishing mundane calm from transcendental calm.
First, we already saw in the Ramayana, in mundane kama, all the 8 steps. They starts contemplating how to have sexual intercourse, and they actually have sexual intercourse. First thing on this platform, if you see. At first, we should know that spiritual karma is completely different on different level. But in that also, if we analyze in the Astanga Maithuna that we read in the Ramayana, then only 5. The first 5 is come under the Lord and his consorts relations. Yeah.
Distinguishing mundane calm from transcendental calm. The exchange of love between Krishna and the gopis resembles embracing, dancing, and so forth. This causes some difficulty in the minds of conditioned souls. The conditioned soul naturally tends to interpret things in the context of his own experience. In this experience, conjugal affairs such as dancing and embracing are manifestations of lust. Thus, when he hears about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, he misinterprets them in the context of mundane lust. However, a devotee with some genuine realization in bhakti sees the pastimes as they really are, pure exchanges of unbounded love. He knows that the gopis' internal motivation is radically different from the motivation of mundane lovers, even though their external activities may appear similar. Material and spiritual lust are as different as iron and gold. Selfish desire is the motivation for material lust. Selfish desire is motivation for spiritual lust. In the mundane world, every action is selfish. In the spiritual world, every action is selfless and meant exclusively for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. Apparent selfishness. Sometimes it seems that the residents of Vrindavan act for their own happiness, but actually they act only for the Lord's pleasure. They know that Krishna takes pleasure when his devotee is pleased. And that is the only reason they sometimes seem to endeavor for their own happiness.
Yeah, Maharaj nicely described this. They sometimes even, of course, they feel the bliss, but they sometimes even they show their happiness also, because by seeing them happy, Krishna becomes more pleased. So that is why sometimes they show their happiness also. They are always submerged in the bliss, of course. But they have only this tendency, how to serve Krishna more, how to make Krishna more happy. So if they think that if we'll be happy, and from seeing us happy, Krishna will become happy, then they show also this, that we are happy.
Kama, lust. Spiritual relationships are never lusty or selfish. And Srila Rupa Goswami says that Krishna's relationship with the gopis is lusty, Kama Rup. He uses the word only figuratively to aid our basic understanding. Srila Prabhupada explains the gopis' ecstatic love for Krishna is sometimes described by scholars as being like the lusty desire of the material world. Actually, it should not be taken as a literal fact. It is simply a way of trying to understand the transcendental situation. The gopis are consumed and obsessed by a passion to satisfy Krishna, the force of which is beyond our ability to comprehend. When comparing it to mundane lust, the single most consuming and overwhelming urge in our experience, we may catch the slightest hint of the intensity in the gopis' desire to serve Krishna. We must understand very carefully that Krishna's conjugal love affairs are impeccably transcendental. Externally, they may resemble mundane lust, but internally they are motivated exclusively by pure selfless prema. Evidence for the purity of spiritual lust, as evidence of the gopis' transcendental purity, Srila Rupa Goswami cites the great devotee Uddhava. Although completely free from all attraction to mundane love affairs, Uddhava glorified the gopis' love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada adds the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the strict sannyasi who also praised the gopis' love of Krishna. If the gopis were affected by mundane sex desire, these two stalwart personalities would never have praised them. Transcendental calm mixed with mundane calm. To further highlight the exalted purity of the gopis' love for Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions Kubja, whose attraction to Krishna was not as pure as the gopis. The selfish desire that slightly tinged her attraction excluded her from the category of Kamrupa and relegated her to the lesser status of Kama Praya, almost lusty desire.
But still she had the attraction for Krishna. That is why she got her desire fulfilled, and means she got the affection of Krishna also. Because even though she had the lusty desire for Krishna, material karma, but it was for Krishna, for nobody else. We in the Bhava Bhakti will see that how in the Bhava it comes that even somebody has little material desires or desire of liberation, but then also sometimes Bhava appears in them, because it is mixed with devotion, then it appears. We'll see in the next class. Or probably this, yeah. The next chapter also.
This chapter continues Srila Rupa Goswami's analysis of spontaneous devotional service. The chapter name is Spontaneous Devotional, further described. As mentioned, the spontaneous love found in the residents of Vrindavan has two divisions: Kama Rupa, sensual attraction, and Sambandha Rupa, relationship. Chapter 15 ended the analysis of Kama Rupa. Chapter 16 begins with a brief analysis of Sambandha Rupa, relationship. Just as Kama Rupa is the intense attachment to service in the mood of a lover, Sambandha Rupa is the intense attachment to service in the mood of a parent, friend, or servant. No necessity of discussing further. Both Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa describe the eternal residents of Vrindavan who possess the perfection of spontaneous devotion. The primary subject of chapters 15 and 16, however, is the practice of spontaneous devotion, Raganuga Sadhana, not the perfection of spontaneous devotion, Ragatmika Prema. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami presents the subject of Ragatmika Bhakti only briefly. Srila Prabhupada writes, in the stage of devotion service where regulative principles are followed, there is no necessity of discussing this love, for it must develop of itself at a more advanced stage.
Yeah, so it develop of itself. It means only by the mercy of the God or his pure devotees, it will develop. We need not to worry about all those things. We should be fixed in our firstly by the bhakti. Prabhupada writes here, for it must develop for itself at more advanced stage.
In the previous,
What previous?
it is already mentioned.
What?
Yes. Raganuga Bhakti is only, no? Those things.
Yeah. Oh, that only where reading from Maharaj book, Maharaj has summarized everything, so that while reading the summary, Maharaj just summarized. Means I'm telling that this is Prabhupada's statement. That was Rupa Goswami's statement that only by the mercy of Krishna or his pure devotees, Raganuga Bhakti, anybody can done. Similarly, Prabhupada tells here that we should not worry for all those things. It must develop of itself at more advances. It will, if it has to develop, God will, or his pure devotees will give kripa, it will develop. We have to follow the Vaidhi Bhakti first. Okay, so Prabhupada clarifies it.
In this statement, like generally, reference, when we give a reference, it is generally clarifying the statement we make, and then it clarifies that. So here, Maharaj, I think Srila Rupa Goswami presents the subject of Ragatmika Bhakti only briefly, and then he writes the Prabhupada writes like this.
Okay.
This is
But
the-
Prabhupada is writing it is about Raganuga Bhakti. Not Ragatmika Bhakti cannot be found only in the eternal residents of Braja. Like we saw earlier also, Maharaj explained in some other way, but it was not explained in that way by Jiva Goswami. That he wrote that Pandavas sometimes can be called Ragatmika. So I don't
this
know.
reference here is not proper.
Yeah, not proper, of course.
It means that the Ragatmika Bhakti can be developed.
Ragatmika Bhakti can never be developed. Yeah, it should be Raganuga Bhakti. Yeah, reference is not proper. Yes, bro. Prabhu is telling that Maharaj is talking about firstly Ragatmika Bhakti. Prabhu is telling that therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami presents the subject of Ragatmika Bhakti only briefly. And then he gives reference of Srila Prabhupada writes, in the stage of devotional service, where regulatory principles are followed, there is no necessity of discussing this love, for it must develop itself a more advanced sign. So Prabhu is telling that this reference is not proper because Ragatmika Bhakti cannot be developed. Because Ragatmika Bhakti is already there in those who are eternal residents of the Braja, they only have the Ragatmika Bhakti.
So it should be written, therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami presents the subject of Raganuga.
Yeah, yes. He has presented very briefly only Raganuga Bhakti. Rupa Goswami is talking about Vaidhi Bhakti in so much slokas, almost 1.2.269. And only 90 sloka, not even 90 sloka, he finished the Raganuga Bhakti. Yeah, just a mistake. Typing error can be done.
Why said, however, is a practice of spontaneous devotion, Raganuga sadhana, not the perfection of spontaneous devotion, Ragatmika prema.
Both Kam Rupa and Sambandh Rupa describe the eternal residents of Vrindavan who possess the perfection of spontaneity. Means the perfection of Raganuga Bhakti is found only in the eternal residents of Vrindavan. First thing is that. And then the primary subject, Maharaj is just telling that what is subject matter of 15 and 16. So he's telling that in 15, Rupa Goswami has started with Raganuga, but then he's talking about Ragatmika Bhakti here. The primary subject of chapter 15 and 16, however, is the practice of spontaneous devotion. It is talking about the Raganuga Bhakti, not the perfection of spontaneous devotion. Okay, Ragatmika Prema. So Rupa Goswami, in this line is okay. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami presents the Ragatmika Bhakti only briefly. In the chapter 15, Rupa Goswami writes about the Ragatmika Bhakti only briefly. Then he starts describing about Raganuga Bhakti. And the Raganuga Bhakti also Rupa Goswami describes briefly only. Both he describes briefly. Anyway, we should not be worried about this. Just later we can clarify what is that. Okay.
Next chapter. Raganuga Bhakti. Spontaneous devotional service. Raganuga Bhakti is the practice of advanced devotees intended to cultivate the sentiments of a particular eternal devotee, Ragatmika Bhakta. Before revealing the methods of this practice, Srila Rupa Goswami first describes the prerequisites a practitioner must possess. Basic qualification to practice spontaneous devotional service. The basic qualification for Raganuga Bhakti is a natural, spontaneous desire to serve Krishna in a specific relationship. A desire that can be evoked by hearing about the eternal residents of Vrindavan.
First thing first, we should know, always note that as has been described by Rupa Goswami. First thing first, mercy of Krishna or his pure devotees, and then by hearing, by the eternal residence of love. Hearing and all those things come everywhere. The Vaidhi sadhana also hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, from where we will hear about the pastimes of Lord, of gopis or any his fathers, from Srimad Bhagavatam. So those are the items of Vaidhi Bhakti also. This will always go. So the mercy is the must needed part. Yes.
The nectar of devotion describes this in a simple way. There is a gradual development of the ambition to become like a pure particular devotee, and this activity is called Raganuga. Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita describes this verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu more elaborately. Tat tat bhavadi madhurye shrute dhir yat apekshate natra sastram na yuktim cha tal lobhopatti lakshanam. When an advanced realized devotee hears about the affairs of the devotees of Vrindavan in the mellows of Santa, Dashya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, he becomes inclined in that way, and his intelligence becomes attracted. Indeed, he begins to covet that particular type of devotion. When such covetousness is awakened, one's intelligence no longer depends on the instruction of the Shastra, revealed scripture, logic, or argument. The devotional service of a Raganuga devotee is guided only by his intense craving to attain the service of a particular resident of Vrindavan, not by scriptural injunction. Srila Prabhupada describes these Raganuga devotees do not follow the regulative principles of devotional service very strictly, but by spontaneous nature they become attracted to some of the eternal devotees such as Nanda or Yashoda, and they try to follow in their footsteps spontaneously.
Prabhupada writes that very strict. It means that there are some limbs that needs to be followed always, not the means all the limbs in the that are favorable for that bhakti. Means it means that very strictly they do not follow, but they do follow.
One point must be repeatedly stressed that a Raganuga devotee is above the regulative principles means that they are not dependent on scriptural injunction for their inspiration to serve and surrender. Their inspiration comes from their own spontaneous affection. This does not mean that a Raganuga bhakti does not follow the regulative principles. It means that their motivation is love, not obligation. Achieving this qualification. The basic qualification for Raganuga.
Wait. 59 Maharaj writes here in the end notes 59. Also in the above regulative principles, the term regulative principles refer to the either the injunctions of Vedic Dharma or the 64 angas of sadhana bhakti. But Ms. Prabhupada does not follow the regulative principles, Prabhupada writes. So it does not mean they follow all the regulative principles, means niyam and nisheth, that is required, that is mandatory. All the Raganuga Bhaktas follow the first 20. Okay, not the 4 regulative principles is talked about. Okay. Of course, they do follow 4 regulative principles for sure. It is not that they do not follow the 4 regulative principles. They do follow for sure. Yeah.
Achieving this qualification. The basic qualification for Raganuga Bhakti is eagerness, lobha, to achieve the service of a particular Ragatmika devotee. But this eagerness is not cheap or easy to come by. Lobha, intense covetousness, refers to the state where our sole and overwhelming desire is to please Krishna in a particular way. As long as there is some desire, some other desire in our hearts, the required intensity of focus cannot manifest. Therefore, lobha usually does not awaken until the devotee achieves steadiness at the completion of anartha nivritti.
It means that lobha or the greed is not given by Lord or by his pure devotee unless normally one attains this anartha nivritti. It is not given. It normally, generally, it is given if it is given. Firstly, if it is given by Krishna or his pure devotee, only after anartha nivritti, in general case.
After having thoroughly heard Srimad Bhagavatam and being freed from all unwanted desires, one then possesses the qualification to practice genuine Raganuga Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada states, we must always remember.
First thing, always we should keep in the remember that it is only by the mercy of Krishna. This thing, the primary, is it understood? And then only after hearing thoroughly, I have this Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, if thoroughly once heard Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna will be pleased. He may give if he wants, he may not give if he does not want. He is completely, yes, ma'am.
So far, we have zero desires,
Yeah,
so we cannot concentrate on this.
yes, yeah, of course. We cannot. These things come only if we are completely focused, like Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instructions tells, Upadesamrita, 24 hours a day. When it comes firstly, you have to first verse, Vachodagam Mansa Krodvegam, second verse, third verse. If we take the set first, second, and third verse, and follow all those uninterruptedly, without any interruption, then we will get the Shuddha Sadhu Sangha. And we will get the Shuddha Sadhu Sangha without interruption. Then we can do the Shuddha Bhajan Kriya. Okay. And when we can do the Shuddha Bhajan Kriya, then Anartha Nivritti will happen. So we should be very careful. And then Anartha Nivritti, as explained here also. When Anartha Nivritti comes, then we can get the mercy, if he desires or his pure devotee desires. It is, we should be first focused on the, as described by in the commentary Upadesh Prakasika by Radharamana Goswami, as well as Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Prabhupada. Radharamana Goswami goes to this far that one should take all those steps even before entering into the book. One should take care of all the first 3 verses. He goes this far. Bhakti Vinod Thakur is a little bit lesser. He tells that these are the angas of Sharanagati. And Sharanagati is considered the external manifestation of Shraddha. So he tells that at least it can be considered the Shraddha, the first 3 verses. So we should see that where we are on the, and the Anartha Nivritti is on the 4th stage. Shraddha, Tat Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, and then Anartha Nivritti.
This is Raganuga Bhakti, like whatever examples we read, is given by some manifest devotees. Like he gave, like he gave an example of Vyad Bhagavatam, that devotee gave to. Is it sometimes that unmanifest devotee has given Raganuga? Is there an example like that Rag has been given by some unmanifest?
Means unmanifest devotee.
Unmanifest are not present in what they are.
Kamakya Devi is not here present in his body, but she gave, no? Narad Muni, he is traveling everywhere. Why he cannot Prince Prabhupada give or any pure devotee of Krishna? You want to tell something? Of course. Kamakya Devi was not his guru, first thing. And she is not like manifest. She is in charge of whole this material world. She is not always like. She came in her dream and gave the mantra. So unmanifest in your words, unmanifest devotee, unmanifested in your words. Not practically, she came in his body and then chanted in her ears. Not like that. They can be, but only the Siddha devotees, not the Raganuga, those who are practicing sadhana, they cannot give unless they have achieved the prema. All those devotees who gave, they have already attained prema. Narada or the Kamakya, they have attained prema. And that's why they are able to give. Yes, bro?
So, am I right that you said that Raganuga sadhana can be given only by Prema Bhakta?
Yes, only by prema bhakta. Whatever the example we saw, it was only by prema bhakta it was given. Sanat Kumar for the king Prabhakar, Narad Muni to the carpenter, Kamakya Devi to the Brahman, and Brahman also got perfected and he gave that to Gop Kumar. Because of the power of that mantra, of course he got Kripa Siddhi. In the Bhav Bhakti it becomes that by the devotees or by the Krishna, they get, the Brahman got Kripa Siddhi by the Durga Devi.
So if some devotee is born, practice Raganuga sadhana, it automatically means that his guru is Prema Bhakta.
If his-
Guru is Prema Bhakta,
And-
opposite.
If his guru has prema bhakta and has given him the raganuga bhakti, means you can practice this, then he can do. If his guru is not prema bhakta, and he has given it, it will be no effect.
Because I know when to Radhamanda, he went on and complete, and he said, he's practicing Radhamanda sadhana. He has regarded to Guru.
I don't want to fall in all those discussions.
That's why I thought.
Yeah. But only prema bhakta. All the examples we saw, na? Means the Narad Muni giving, even in the Brihad Bhagavatam, Itakam, the Sanat Kumar giving, all those are prema bhaktas. If one is prema bhakta, one can be prema bhakta in this body also. It's not that there are three types of prema bhakta. I think we won't be discussing because it will not come. One is called Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, like Narad Muni in his previous birth. Okay, means when he got the darshan of the Lord. And so when one is in the higher stage of the bhava also, means almost he just the bud has almost flowered, it has almost become flower. That time also he is considered Kanishta Prema Bhakta. Okay. And then Madhyama, it is called like Sukadev Goswami. It's called Madhyama Prema Bhakta. And then Narad Muni in his next, as soon as he appeared from the mouth of Brahma, he is complete, full flowered Prema Bhakta. Okay. It's like that. Whatever example we saw like that. Durga Kamakhya Devi, she is not some ordinary lady or some, she is like, what to say? She is taking care of this material world. Superintendent, and she is actually consort of the Shiva, Lord Shiva, means another form of the Lord. Lord Shiva is Vishnu in different form, like curd and milk analogy is given.
You cannot know who are who.
Yeah, we cannot know, of course, who are who. If one is Prema Bhakta, he can give. If one is not, and has been given, just is a joke, farce. Okay, we'll have Shadam. Oh, okay, we'll continue. No problem.